Okay, so imagine this. Just yesterday Ukrainian forces started its counter-offensive and just one day later they are already successful. So what Ukrainian army achieved in the south so far? What is the situation around the battle for Severodonetsk? And how does the future of this war look for both countries? And these are the questions that we'll be talking about in today's video. What's up, investors, smart lacker and people of Reddit, it's the Russian dude, and this is your daily update on Russian-Ukrainian war as of Wednesday, June 8th. You can see the main events of the day to my right, along with the timestamps. Alright, so once again I'm asking for your attention please, because this is your update on Ukrainian counteroffensive in the south. So even though Ukrainian counterattack started only technically yesterday, they were already able to liberate several kilometers in the south. What I'm speaking about here is that Ukrainian forces are getting closer towards liberating the region of Kherson. Of course, I'm not expecting Ukraine to fully liberate south in just 24 hours, even though it will be amazing, but just advancing for several kilometers in one day, it's already pretty good. Kherson is one of the biggest Ukrainian cities in the south, which basically means that if Ukraine is able to get the control over this city, this opens them many new roads towards liberating south completely. In addition to that, this might potentially open the direction to Crimean Peninsula, which has been occupied by Russian forces since 2014. And if you remember, the new goal of Ukraine in this war is to take back all of its territories, including the Crimean Peninsula. And yes, if you are new here or you missed a couple of my previous episodes, the reason why Ukraine is able to launch successful counteroffensive in the south, it is because there is way few Russian soldiers in these territories. And it is because Russians had to reallocate the majority of its soldiers towards the east of the country, where at this very moment the most important battle at this very moment is happening, which is the battle for Severodonetsk. Severodonetsk is this city in Luhansk region which at this very moment Russia is trying to capture. But Ukraine has been able to fortify its positions and is showing great resistance towards Russian forces. Because of this, Russia decided to open another front and they started attacking the Severodonetsk from the west. And that is why yesterday there was severe artillery strikes in the city of Izium. But Ukrainian forces already started fighting back, specifically from the city of Slavyansk. So what we have right now is that Ukrainian forces are trying to push away Russian soldiers from the west of Luhansk region, so that the only battlefront in this territory will be once again the city of Severodonetsk. And since neither of the sides is advancing significantly in the city of Severodonetsk, Ukrainian forces also started advancing a little bit in the south. What Ukrainians are basically doing here is that they're preventing themselves from being surrounded, and at the same time they are liberating several Ukrainian territories along the way. So yes, like mentioned previously, the battle of Severodonetsk at this very moment is considered to be the most important battle, because whoever wins this city gets the significant advantage in the future of this war. Let's say, so if Ukraine is able to liberate Severodonetsk, it will be extremely difficult for Russia to continue invading the Luhansk region, which at this very moment is their top priority. And guess what happens if your main goal of this war is failing? In this case, you'll either have to end the war as is, or you'll have to create a new goal. But if Russia is able to capture the city of Severodonetsk, they will be able to advance in Luhansk region, with the only potentially last standing stronghold of Ukraine on their way is the city of Lysychansk. So if Russians are able to capture both of these cities, most likely they will be able to meet their goals of liberating Luhansk region. And in this case, Russia might announce some kind of victory to its residents, and hopefully we can see the end of the war, at least the actual fighting. And by the way, if you like this style of daily news reporting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please make sure to check the link in the description if you wish to support Ukraine with us. You will get additional content such as daily Zoom calls and Q&A sessions, and all the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine at the end of each month. Thanks so much, and let's continue. Welcome to another episode of Ridiculous Russian Propaganda. And today we are talking about just Ukrainian cyborgs. So one of the military representatives of Russia who is having Ukrainian prisoners of war at his disposal describes the situation like this. He says that according to him, it does look like that these Ukrainian soldiers are full of pain-killing drugs. And besides this, they are also somehow consuming mind-altering drugs. And because of the combination of these drugs, these Ukrainian soldiers become some kind of Ukrainian cyborgs, which basically means that they do not feel pain, they do not feel fear, and Russian soldiers are concerned who is the prisoner of war in this situation. And so what he means, if this is how Ukrainian prisoners are, he can only imagine how dangerous and mindless actual Ukrainian cyborgs are on the battlefields. Today, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, did a press conference in Turkey. He was obviously justifying the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, and he was also saying that there is no way that Russia was selling stolen wheat from Ukraine. These statements were obviously expected from him, but hold your horses, he made another one. So, he was talking about this statement from Ukrainian government officials who were talking about that Russia needs to remove its soldiers from the territory of Ukraine before they can even start doing peace talks. Which, if you think about this, kinda makes sense. If you want peace, you have to remove your soldiers. It's like you cannot take a gun and put it to someone's head and say something like, "Let's make peace, товарищ." Or I mean, at least it's not something what you have to do if you're the representative of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But nevertheless, Sergei Lavrov went ahead and said that this demand by Ukraine is completely unacceptable and basically it's not serious. The only way Russia negotiates peace is whenever Russia completely liberates Ukraine. Today, Russian politician Sergei Mironov, the leader of Just Russia political party, hit a pedestrian with his driver on his car. So okay, this news might not be something like extraordinary or important, but in fact this shows you the attitude of politicians towards regular Russian people. So Sergei Mironov's Bentley obviously was driving on the high speed next to the small traffic jam, and other cars were stopping in front of the pedestrian crosswalk. But I guess you don't need to stop if you're a politician and you have these special blue signals. In this case, other people should be warned that you are approaching and they should stop. So the car hits this guy on a pedestrian crosswalk and at least they stopped. Sergei Mironov left the car, took his documents and he just left. He basically told the driver, "You solve this problem and you just pick me up later." The politician didn't even approach the guy who was hit and like I said, he just left. His only concern was to save his face and to tell his driver to remove the license plate and these blue special signals, which is basically exactly what the driver was doing while other pedestrians were helping this hit guy. And now you see it. Politicians, whenever they're on TV, they're saying about how strong and united Russia is. That everyone should work towards mutual victory. Every single Russian is important to Russia. But in reality, this is what happens. The press secretary of Russia, Dmitry Biskov, also had a press conference today and he made several statements and the majority of them were the ones which you already know. First of all, he was talking about that the in-person meeting between Putin and Zelensky is impossible at this very moment, because according to him, the presidents have nothing to discuss just yet. Then he was talking about the West, which was forcing Russia into default. And lastly, he was acknowledging that the world is already in food crisis because of the wheat situation. But guess what? He said that Ukraine cannot influence this food crisis simply because this country does not produce enough wheat. Yes, you heard it right. The 7th biggest wheat producer in the world does not produce enough wheat. Today, a law has been introduced in the Russian parliament which will not recognize the independence of Lithuania after the fall of the USSR. So yes, back in 1999, when the USSR collapsed, all these countries became independent. And this is basically why all these countries can be united right now as post-Soviet countries. And among these countries are, for example, Russia, Ukraine and, for example, Lithuania. Since then, these countries started acting as independent countries. And so what this law attempts to do is to not recognize the independence of Lithuania. So I mean, I have no idea what Russian parliament is expecting the government of Lithuania to do with this law, but that's basically what happened. And I guess this is how it looks like in the understanding of Russian government officials what will happen in the Lithuanian government soon. Oh no, Russians signed this law, we now cannot be independent. I guess we'll have to join Russia after all. And this would be the best case scenario for Russia. But in case this obviously does not happen, will Russia try to liberate Lithuania as well? Now that is the question. Today, Ukraine announced that they want to purchase Iron Dome missile defense system from Israel. As of today, this is one of the most advanced missile defense system in the world. It has already successfully proven itself against Palestinian missile attacks. Which means that in case Ukraine can obtain this defense system, this will significantly increase its chances against Russia. But unfortunately, at this very moment, it does not look promising that this deal will go through. The former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, said that she does not want to see Russian culture being cancelled on the West. Even though whenever she was a Chancellor of Germany, she was pretty friendly towards Russia, she was still a very great diplomat around the world. So this statement does not mean that she unconditionally supports Russia. What it means, first of all, according to me, is is that she knows that Russian people are different from Russian government, and she simply doesn't want regular Russian people, especially those who are against this war, to struggle because of the effects of this war. Today, the head of Crimea, Sergei Aksyonov, said that Kherson and Zaporozhye region will join Russia 100%. And so obviously this guy is a Russian infiltrator in Crimea, and even though this is so far from Russia itself, it only confirms the fact once again that Russia wants to join these regions as soon as possible, because they're feeling that the war is not going according to their plan. Because if you remember, just yesterday the infiltrators of Russia in Kherson and Melitopol were already talking about that they want to do a referendum as soon as possible. Today the European Parliament voted whether they should give the official applicant status to Ukraine to join the European Union. 438 voted for this proposition, 65 voted against, and 94 did not vote at all. And even though this might just only be one step closer towards Ukraine joining the European Union, the real vote whether to give the official applicant status to Ukraine will be held somewhere in June 23rd, 24th. Once again, today's voting was only about whether they should recommend to give this status to Ukraine. Thank you so much for your attention, check the link in the description, stay safe and see you tomorrow.